December 13th, 1979. There was a shootout that took place on the streets of Whittier, involving 3 undercover Whittier Police Detectives and 2 motorcycle gang members. In the end, 2 lives were lost, one of which was Detective Michael Lane. Mike Lane was the second officer in the department's history to have been killed in the line of duty. The first was Detective John Pierce, only 3 years earlier. The purpose of Forgotten Tales has always been to shine a light on forgotten history. But in this case, it's to ensure that the story of Whittier Police Detective Michael Lane is never forgotten.
When I was probably in the 8th grade, I wanted to be either a pilot or a policeman. Couldn't be a pilot because my eyes were too bad, so I ended up sticking to police work. Always had an interest in it, and was a job that was not the same every day. It was different. It was exciting sometimes. Which is why you do it. So when I first came on the department, Mike was one of the first guys I met. He was younger than me. He was a recruit. Not a recruit, I think he was a cadet. He was just getting ready to turn 21, I believe. And when he turned 21, then he was hired on as a police officer. And then we ended up going to the academy together. I don't know, we just seemed to hit it off. Everybody starts in patrol. And then as it goes on, there's an opening opened up in a multi-jurisdictional surveillance crew where he followed burglars and bandits and those kind of things. We watch them commit the robbery and then we take them down. And they asked me if I wanted to be on that crew. And I said, hell yes, why not? So I left patrol to do that, and I was teamed up with Mike. Oh God, I met Dave when I came on. I mean, what was he? I can't even tell you what he's doing. He might have been in patrol, and then he went to motors, and then he was a detective.
Yeah, I was an officer for the first year, then I was a motor cop for a year. Got put on motors, tactical traffic unit, and then I got back off motors because my then wife was afraid I'd get hurt, so I hung it out, killed me to do that. Didn't save the marriage either. So then back to patrol for a year, and then in 73, I think it was, I went in detectives. I hired on here in November 66. Willis was in charge of Hill, and you know he's a combat veteran, and if I ever got in a fight, he's my first choice to be on my hip. He is a bad dude with a heart of gold and a character line as thick as can be. It just always seemed that whenever some big case would pop, there we were together.
Dave and I, we were always good friends. I think Mike and Dave were better friends than I was with Dave. They worked Detective Bureau together.
Mike and I had a stronger affliction for each other because he was interested in old cars, and being the motorhead, we could talk the same talk.
Mike and Dave owned a lot of cars. I could care less about cars.
I was 19 years old when I started, and Mike Lane, he was just a nice man, you know, a good policeman and a nice man, and he made you feel comfortable in what you're doing. As a green kid coming in, he made you feel like, you know, you could do it. So I always remember him that way.
There were some dispatchers they didn't get along with that well. Some of them weren't as good as other ones. Some of them couldn't think, you know, in a crisis situation. They had a hard time functioning. But Fran was always, I mean, I'm sure she was, you know, excited in things, but her voice never reflected it when you heard it on the air.
Best of the best. Her performance under stress, phenomenal. You couldn't do it. Many can't do it because there's so many balls to juggle, and to keep your composure. But that was her. She just had the knack for it.
It's a tough job, and being able to do that job is an achievement, and I was proud of it.
I developed an interest in recovering stolen cars and identifying stolen cars, and number jobs and motorcycles where they've switched the ID numbers, and I loved the challenge of getting in there and outsmarting the crooks who thought they were outsmarting you.
It was like riding those roller coasters. It would scare the shit out of you. You wouldn't do it, right? So that's kind of the way this was. This was always about the excitement of the job.
I had an informant who told me that he rode with a bunch of bad boy bikers, and every time that they moved, there was number jobs within that group. What that means is guys have modified the ID numbers to make the bikes look like they're not stolen, but they're stolen bikes. And so the key was to get the bikes and then reconstruct the ID numbers so you could prove that they were stolen. But I had to find out where they were, and he would let me know whenever they're riding. So we're going to be riding tonight. There'll be 30 of us, and in our group there'll be 3 number jobs. So I'd wait for them and stop all 30 of them, which is pretty good on a motor by yourself. So if they weren't getting stopped and checked, then they were fine, and then they end up renting a house in your city, and then you got a biker hangout, and just goes downhill from there. So if they realize the police are on you, then they mind their P's and Q's and don't come to town.
Eventually, this crew, this robbery and burglary surveillance crew, ended. The funding ran out for it. So I was transferred back to Whittier into narcotics. Mike came back before me because when John Pierce was hurt and then eventually died, Mike took his place in narcotics.
John Pierce was a 6'3" tall, good-looking, blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy. Ladies loved him. Great, sarcastic sense of humor. Extremely smart. Good-hearted man. Fathered 2 beautiful daughters. His wife was a doll. All-American family. It was a gal he was going to buy dope from at the college, and so they set the deal up, and he was to go up there. At the time, there was a guy named, they called the Puncher, running around the college running up to girls and hitting them. Kind of, weird thing. I think some kind of a sexual deal, but he'd punch him and then take off. So then, of course, they called the police, and so we were always worried about the Puncher. And John goes up to this girl's room to do the dope deal. Meantime, she finds out he's the law, so she doesn't want to do the deal, which is fine. Then she calls campus security and says, I think the Puncher was just here. So these 2 guys from campus security come running like Mighty Mouse to save the day. And they overrun John as he's walking down Earlham Avenue, bend him over at the waist, and ram him headfirst into the hood of a Ford pickup that's sitting there. Broke his neck, and that's the last time he ever moved. That was September, and he died in May.
Mike and I did a lot of narcotic buys And in those days, you had to actually make the buy. You couldn't have somebody go in for you. Anyway, we got called in to set this buy up. And I was informed that Igor lived in Pico, and somebody had broken into his home, stole a bunch of guns, and then Igor was a Cossack, and I didn't know anything about Cossacks other than the motorcycle gang, and I think Igor, he was the president, but I think he was the only member, so he made himself president, and he wasn't the sharpest knife in the drawer.
Your Igor, it's I-G-O-R.
Right.
Today's date is December 13th, 79, and it's approximately 10:30 p.m. in the evening. Let's start from the very beginning. I understand that you had a bike or motorcycle that was stolen from you by some people.
Yes, sir.
Okay, why don't we start with that, the stolen motorcycle, and then how it evolved into the situation that it did.
It started before the motorcycle was stolen. Approximately, thinking back, I think about the 18th of last month, 3 members of the Scavengers Motorcycle Club came to my house. They were armed. I asked them what they wanted, and they came to the point really quickly, and they said that they had an altercation with members of the Cossacks Motorcycle Club the previous evening, at which time they pointed all their guns at each and every one of us. They started rifling through my bedroom. Subsequently, they found a shotgun and my handgun. And they took a handgun away from one of the Cossacks that was there. They started pistol whipping all of us. I thought they were going to kill us. I didn't know what was happening. But little D, for some reason, walked up to me and says, "I don't want to kill you. I just want to tell you that there ain't going to be no more Cossacks in Whittier."
And then he got a call from Andrew Harvey, and Andrew Harvey said that they had taken his guns and they were just screwing with him, and that, come on down to the Scavenger Clubhouse and they'd give him his guns back. Now, Andrew Harvey was a Vago, and they were a very large organization of motorcycle gang. And I think at that time they were like the 3rd largest in the Western Hemisphere. And they were partying with the Scavengers, which was a local Whittier motorcycle gang.
They were headed up by a guy whose dad owned the Harley shop in town. And he became their president, Rocky Birch.
I think it was one of the officers, and I believe it was Cleveland Whittier, where he got in an accident. I think an officer actually saved his life, but he lost his leg in doing so. So he had a wooden leg.
Blinded Rocky. He'd service my motorcycle. I rode Harleys for the city. So I'd take it in the motorcycle shop to get it serviced.
And of course, then there was Igor, who was his Cossack, and he, like I said, I think he was the only Cossack.
He was a biker-looking guy, if you want to draw a caricature of one. He was like 6'4", 6'5", long hair, deep voice, biker mentality, tattoos, it's the whole thing.
Got on his motorcycle with his, what they referred to as their old lady, which was their girlfriend or their wife or whatever it was.
So we rode over to the Scavenger Clubhouse. We drove up into the parking lot. I saw James Hensley, who was a member of the Nomad Cossacks. I didn't know what the hell he was doing there. Couldn't understand. So I got off the bike. I asked him, "What are you doing here? You said you weren't going to come down. Now I see you here."
So they proceeded to kick the shit out of him and took his colors and his motor, his motorcycle, and kicked him in the ass and sent him on his way.
All of a sudden, Hensley hit me. And he hit me pretty hard, and I fell to the ground. And then somebody started kicking me. I think it was him. And I heard in the background, I get a piece of him next. Now, my girlfriend told me that that was the Vago, George. I got to my feet, and one scavenger had me by one shoulder, and one had me by the other shoulder. A third one approached and started ripping my belt off of me. The fourth one took my wallet out. And he says, "You're dead. Give me your fucking keys now to your bike." I go, "You people gave me your word that nothing was going to come down." He goes, "I didn't give you my word. Either you give up your keys or you're dead." So I handed him my keys. And then one of the Vagos hit me. I thought for sure I was gone and then. There was no way possible I was going to walk out of there without a beating.
He told a tale of them, ripping him off in front of the other bikers and taking away his colors and taking away his knife. I mean, those are the two things that are near and dear to a biker.
And that's, for the motorcycle lingo, that's a real disgrace to have your colors taken from you and to be treated like that.
One of the Vagos, George, stood in front and says, "I'm taking this bike, and I'm taking her too." One of the scavengers said, "Hey, she's sick looking anyway. Let her go with her own man."
So he let you go then?
Yeah, he let us go. So I waited the next day, and I got a call from the Vago. The Vago called me up.
What's his name?
George.
George.
Yeah. He calls me up and he says, "You want your bike back? I got your bike. Give me $500.
So you did make a report to the Whittier place, though?
Yeah, I did.
And as a result of that report, Detective Butler was the one who was working the case here?
Yes, sir.
We trusted him pretty much, but we were going to make him be a player in the group. Tell him he got the money. And we'll have Mike hold the money, and Mike Lane hold the money, and you can negotiate the return and all of that. When they bring the bike back, we'll pounce them, and we'll get them for conspiracy to commit extortion, extorting money out of you for returning your motorcycle. And if they have the bike, we'll get them for possession of stolen property.
Igor needed a ride because he no longer had a ride because they took his motorcycle, and that's the only thing he had. So he initially told them that he was going to have to find a guy or somebody to give him a ride, and it ended up that was how we got Mike into it.
Finally, I told him over the phone, "I don't have a car, so I'm going to have someone come out and get me, pick me up. I'll come out to wherever you want to meet me, as long as there's no bull."
When we worked together, it was always whoever got to do the last undercover operation. Then if it were like it was me, I did the last narcotic buy. So the next one was Mike's. And we didn't like to be cheated out of our turn. So it was his turn and he was going to do it. So there was no talking him out of it. So it was like, but one of the things we talked about was, hey, I know it's yours. I wired him up for sound. And we talked as this was going on. And there was just this not good feeling about this one.
Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Date 12/13/79. Time is 17:25 hours. The operator will be Detective Mike Lane.
You can't just walk away. I mean, that's your job. You don't just say, "Oh, I'm leery of this one, so we're not going to do it." You just can't do that. You kind of have a specific reason why you don't do this, not just, "Well, I think it might go bad, so you don't do it." No, you can't do that. That doesn't work that way. So.
There was something more intense that night. I don't know why. There was a feeling of seriousness. This was going to be potentially dangerous. It felt like they were worried. And so because of that, we were worried.
So Mike was showing up with the money. Okay, we're ready to go. He was driving my old Toyota truck, and
Well, we never really, because we didn't know where the buy was going to go down in the beginning.
Michael Lane had come over to the house.
About what time?
I'm not exactly sure at the time. It was 6:30. So we got inside the house, and I told him that the guy had called me, but he hasn't called back since. Not more than 5 minutes later, he called.
George called.
George called.
Okay, what did he say?
He said, "You got the money? Who's there with you?" I go, "One of my club brothers. And him and me are going to come out there. Where do you want us to meet?" He goes, "Well, you know the town of Whittier?" I go, "Yeah, somewhat." He goes, "You know a bar named PJ's?" I go, "No." He goes, "Well, it's past the bridge, up Whittier Boulevard. Come to that bar, bring the money, and have a bite." So Michael and I got into the red Toyota pickup, and we drove off. As we were driving, I told him I was scared. He goes, "Don't worry about nothing. I want to get home tonight. You want to get home tonight? We'll both be home tonight. Everything's going to be okay. We got a lot of people on our side." I told him, "Thank you."
There were so many balls in the air, it was confusing, because, like Mike and Dave said, they didn't even know where it was going to go. In fact, at one point, Mike Lane called me because he couldn't talk to Mike and Dave Butler directly. Tell Mike this is where it's happening. I was the last person that talked to him from the department one-on-one.
So what we had to do was now, once we realized they wanted to go to PJ's bar, then we had to get to that location and set up.
it's a hole-in-the-wall dive on Whittier Boulevard. I've never been in it.
It was a rough spot. We had taken calls there before, and we knew that it was a hangout for the bikers and stuff like that. But nothing this serious, obviously. It just was a rowdy bar.
Not much to tell. It's just a kind of a little hole bar that been there since Christ was a corporal. I was there once. I stopped a gal across the street, right across Whittier Boulevard from PJ's. And I pulled her over for, can't remember, I think she blew a red light or something. Anyway, it's just a normal kind of soccer mom kind of gal, and realistically I probably wasn't even going to give her a ticket at the time. But anyway, I heard a shot from behind me, and behind me was the bar. And this guy came staggering out and fell in the sidewalk. So this gal, she was turned about 3 shades of white, and I gave her a license registration, "Get out of here." She was gone. And I went across, and there was an altercation in the bar. It wasn't the bikers, it was just some guy got mad at another guy and shot him in the stomach, and he lived. But yeah, he was laying in the sidewalk out there. So that was my other connection with PJ's bar. So it really probably wasn't the greatest place to go to, but
He drove to PJ's bar.
He drove directly to PJ's bar and parked across the street in that transmission shop parking lot.
They pull in the parking lot. They make a U-turn, and they're facing Whittier Boulevard now. And they stop, shut down.
and Mike backed in directly across from PJ, across Whittier Boulevard from where PJ's bar was. And so he was facing the front doors of PJ's and could see what was going on.
We pull in the parking lot of the taco joint that's east of it, and we shut down, and then we're watching.
And then Dave was driving, I was a passenger, and he was actually driving my undercover car.
Plain detective unit. We were in I think it was a Ford Granada. Just a plain old sedan.
I can't remember the name of the restaurant, but it was right there. We were in their parking lot, but we were about 2 stalls off of Comstock. So we had a really close up close and personal look at where Mike was. We could see him. We drove in face in, so we wouldn't look obvious. We drive in like everybody else would, but we did a reverse. You could see out the mirrors, you could see out the back, and you could see across the street. Then you look over and you could see Mike. And plus we had the wire going in the back seat so we could hear Mike's conversation. Everything was being recorded.
And pretty soon the two Gunsels come out to the middle of the street, and Igor goes out to the middle of the street, and they meet in the middle. And they talk, and then Igor comes back and tells Mike what the conversation was, and we hear him tell Mike.
He said, let's have a beer. He said for you to come in there too. Nah, I'm not going in. He said he wants to see the money, he's going to give a call, the bike will be brought here. Now, you tell him what I told you, that you wouldn't be here if you didn't have the money, but the money is staying in this truck until the bike gets there, and I see you sitting on it. All right? Okay, give me $1 for some beer. I don't have any money, Igor. I really don't. I don't either.
They didn't expect it to be set up that way. I think they expected somebody to go in the bar with the money and say, here's the money, give me my bike. Well, that isn't the way it's going to work. And I think it kind of threw them off guard a little bit because they got really pissed.
So we were just kind of monitoring the conversation there, but Mike and I, Willis and I said that if they cross the center line of the street, it's done. We'll take them down for conspiracy to commit the crime.
And we didn't like what was going on, so because it was getting nasty. They were coming out of the bar, flipping them off, and they were making threats and yelling across the street at Mike. And
so some time went by, and then pretty soon here goes a truck by with the bike in the back of it. They didn't stop. Just kept on going.
Okay, he's giving signals, or it looks like he's giving signals to somebody down the street. Okay, he's giving them to that truck. He's waving it past. He waved it on past, and it's going westbound on Whittier.
Dave and I talked about it. We said, hey, if we can get that bike, let's shut this thing down, because all we care about is getting that bike back.
We never did find it. Officers were out of position when they went by, and
That dark gray 56, 57 Chevy truck, and it's got a bike in the back, and there were two bikers inside of it.
We had a unit down there at 5 Points, and that was the next intersection west, and for some reason he never saw the bike, never saw the truck with the bike, and don't know how he missed it.
you know, the theory was that they'd get a block down the road out of sight, and boom, they'd pounce them and get the bike right then.
Is that your bike in the back of that truck?
It was.
Where'd the guy go? Can you see him down there?
No, I didn't. He went by real fast.
Anyway, we lost that chance as that went away. But it wasn't too much longer after that when everything started to go south on us. So.
Well, what are we waiting for now? Our guys could be taking down the guys in the truck now with your bike. I don't know. We're just, like I said, we're going to have to wait for some kind of signal from them. How do we know what kind of signals? Well, I'll just wait to see one of them, and he'll tell me something. Well, like I said, you just head for cover when this goes down, and don't try to get even.
So we were waiting to have the bike returned or to see the bike again for this thing to culminate. And they suddenly bum rushed the truck. They just took off running toward the truck.
We hear Mike say, uh-oh, go meet him in the street. They're both coming across here.
Uh-oh. Okay, go meet them in the street. Looks like they're both coming out here. Tell them just one of them.
Which in retrospect tells me it was a rip-off of the money. They were going to not only not give the bike back, they were going to rip him off for the money too.
I got out of the truck and I had my hand on the door.
You're standing with the passenger door open behind the door?
Yeah, behind the door.
Now, where were they at this time?
They were approaching.
Were they all the way across the street?
Almost. I said, only one of you come to the truck. But they kept approaching.
Did they say anything to you at all?
They didn't say a word.
I got out of the car and I told Dave to call them in, call the units in.
I Call them in, I jump out of the car, block the car, policy.
Finally, they both got to the truck.
Okay, now,
The first one to the truck was Rocky,
so they both approached the truck. Which side of the truck did they?
Michael's side,
And then George was behind him. How far behind him was George?
3 feet.
3 feet.
I got into the parking lot, and I remember thinking, okay, I got them both. They're both in one spot here. But my concern was, Mike is in trouble, and I got to do something to get him out of this.
Okay, what happened there?
Rocky saw the gun.
So the gun that Mike was
He
holding?
looked directly at it.
Mike's in the truck. He's got a sawed-off shotgun about that big. And we always carried it when we followed bandits into a bank, for instance, and we watched them rob a bank. We always had that under our coat. One of us would have that scattergun under our coat, just in case.
Rocky started to pull a gun
Okay, where did he pull the gun from?
from his waistband.
And which hand did he have it
Right
in?
hand.
His right hand. Okay.
George pulled a gun, but it didn't look like it came from his waistband, but it looked like it came from behind.
Behind him?
Yeah. But also in his right hand.
I had my 9mm in one hand, and I had my badge in the other. And for some reason, Harvey started to move. And he started going around the front of the truck, and he started moving in that direction.
Rocky started yelling something like, "You know what, motherfucker? You want to go for it? Go for it now."
Just one of you is good enough. Huh? Just one of you is good enough. I'm gonna do it, man. Go for it. There's the money, right? Go for it. Hey, he wants you to threaten me, man. Go for it, punk. He wants me to do it. Don't threaten me with a gun. You understand me?
So he had that in his lap when Rocky came up, and Rocky freaked out over it, I guess.
And then I run over across the street, and I see Willis at the front of the truck, and I hear him yell, "Stop, police." Very loud, very clear.
Police. Freeze right there, like I say, a few other things. And then he doesn't even hesitate. He just turns, and there's a gun in his hand.
He's got his gun pointed at Harvey, and Harvey lifts his gun up at Mike, and so there's an exchange of gunfire.
Don't threaten me with a gun. Got a gun. Get off it. Damn it. Hey, there ain't nothing gonna happen.
And so I started shooting,
The next thing I knew, gunfire.
and I see the rounds striking him.
I did what Michael said. I hit the dirt.
And we're moving around to the passenger side of the truck.
I saw George coming toward me, and he looked like he was going to shoot me. So I dived behind the truck.
And then he goes down, face down, right down by the right rear tire.
And then Rocky's gone inside the truck on top of Mike.
And Mike is pushed over against the passenger door, and he's trying to kick Rocky off.
Then my attention is drawn to Rocky, and he's got a gun in his hand, and so I'm asking myself, is that a gun in his hand? Yes, it is. And well, he's pointing it at Mike. He can't do that. Can I shoot him? Yeah, I can. Well, wait a minute. Is there something beyond that I might hit if I miss him? Let's check and see. Okay, no, we're good. Then bang. You know, I mean, I remember thinking those thoughts as clear as a day, but you know, just to say it takes a minute. You know.
And then I think he went after the shotgun that was Mike had in, because there was a round that was fired that blew out the back window of the truck. I began shooting in through the windshield into Rocky.
That went all the way across his body and did not touch a vital organ. How does that happen?
And I saw Mike's knee come up, and I thought, oh, shit, did I just shoot my partner in the knee? And I had to stop. I caught a movement out of my eye, and I looked through the windshield, through the back window, and in the back of the truck, Harvey is standing up. And he's got both hands on his gun, and he's looking through the windshield at me, and I remember his muzzle just lit up.
Harvey had gone to the back of the pickup, so that Wilson in the front, and they're going like this, shooting at each other.
As I drop down the front of the truck, I'm now right in the front of the truck, because now I'm trying to use the truck for cover, but My back's to the truck, and I'm actually looking across towards PJ's bar, but all the I can hear shooting going on behind me.
And so I want Harvey to know that I'm there, that maybe his logical mind, which is me, would think I'm outnumbered, I'll give up. So I threw a couple rounds his way, which is wasted rounds. I shouldn't have done it, but I did. It went into the signboard behind him.
Most of the shooting when I was down in front of the truck was Dave shooting at Harvey, who was at the back of the truck. I find out later, Dave's the one that made him run. Dave engaged him, and this guy was, holy shit, there's another one. And so he took off for the back of that's what made him run. I didn't realize that's what made him run.
If I would have had my composure about me, I could have headshot him and killed him right then. He wasn't that far away, but you're amped up.
When I went down, I was really, really scared. I mean, almost. I don't know if I've ever been that scared. Not even in Vietnam was I ever quite that scared. And then at some point, I remember when I stood up, it was like anger, rage. There's no more fear. It was all rage. And I remember it's like I was watching myself from somewhere else.
If you saw him the way he was that night, it's a rabid dog angry, you'd go, whoop. Don't make this guy mad.
When I came back up, I saw him running away towards the building, away from us. So I stepped, Harvey. So I stepped to the right of the car, and I saw him running, and I fired 2 more rounds at him. And I think one took his hat. And then I looked back, and Rocky's backing out of the truck, and so I turned on him, and I start firing.
Mike hit him again, and I hit him from behind.
And then the gun goes empty. My gun went to slide lock. There was no more rounds in it.
One of my rounds hit him in the butt and hit his hip bone and went up and took the artery out of his stomach. And he bled to death. But Mike had also, with his 5th round into his side somewhere, had hit a bleeder. So either one of those rounds were fatal rounds.
So I've got to get back to the car now to either get the shotgun or get more rounds for my 9mm.
And he just sits down. And as he's sitting down, I hear the cartridges from his gun dropping to the ground. He's reloading. I was
still mad, so I was yelling at Harvey back in the corner. He said, "I'm coming for you. I'm going to kill you, you son of a bitch." And I remember yelling at him. And it was like, it's me? I look back later and I thought, holy shit, was that me?
And so I hear the cartridges dropping to the ground, and I follow him down with my gun, and I hear him gasp. He's done.
But I don't have any ammo, so I had to get back across to get more ammo. Well, when I started to transition to go that way, he came out with his hands up, and he was giving up.
And he's coming out of the dark going, "Don't shoot. I give up. I'm hurt."
And then all of a sudden, I heard him yell, "I'm shot. I'm shot."
This is George yelling.
George yelling. Then I saw him throw the gun toward the benches.
Shots fired. Copy, shots fired. Been shot to PJ. Station, get some sheriffs on him. Yeah, all units respond to PJ's 62 code 3.
We called in the sheriffs. We called in everyone to cordon off the area.
I quit, he said. I give up.
And so we walk him out and set him down. And right then there's a unit there, and I get the unit, put cuffs on this guy. So he cuffs him up.
I see Rocky laying on the ground, and right above Rocky is Dave, right where I knew he should be. And while laying there, he had a .38 revolver. He emptied the revolver and was trying to load more rounds in when his body just stopped. And then I looked in the truck, and Mike was still seated in the truck, and he was leaning against the passenger door facing out the driver's door. So I ran over to see if he was all right.
But you can imagine my thinking that you're Rocky, I drop you, follow you down, and you go down, and then I look up, and there's Mike Lane in my line of fire with a bullet hole right here. What am I thinking?
You're thinking you accidentally shot him.
I think I just shot him.
And he was like snoring real loud. And so I figured he wasn't going to make it.
27 rounds, 11 seconds. Open parking lot. 5 guys shooting at each other.
I remember the fear I heard in their voices.
Probably 5-8, core 3.
And then all hell broke loose. 5 seconds out there felt like 3 hours. When your partners is there and injured, it doesn't feel like they're getting there fast enough.
They're under 2 of them and paramedics.
And at the same time, working with the other officers who were working with the barricaded people in the bar.
Probably no one's coming out the back back's covered.
And the guys were hearing guns rack, so it was intense for several hours. When that was finally cleared, they had to go down to the clubhouse because they had been gathering there. Once that finally got cleared, we were able to move on and walk away from the council.
Now, we talk about this whole thing, and you got to understand that this whole shooting took between 10 and 12 seconds, and it was over. It's history. So, you know, I can sit back and pick it apart, but things were going, you know, like so fast. It was one after another, after another, after another, and it was very fast. Boom, 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 boom. It was over.
We're throwing lead around out here. This can happen. You know, I'm justifying to myself. And I was not satisfied that I didn't shoot him until I saw him take the bullet out of his head. And I was able to talk my way into the autopsy to do that. Shouldn't have been at the autopsy.
It's important for me to talk to young officers that go through shootings because nobody did that for me. And then down the road when officers started who had walked in my shoes and started talking to me about what they experienced, I realized, well, that's normal because I did that too. For many years, I thought I was abnormal. I thought there's something wrong with you. You're nuttier than a fruitcake, you know, and you're something mentally wrong with you, you know, for a long time.
But I want to see that bullet come out of his head because I had it in my crazy mind that night, which you develop when these things happen, that they would pull a bullet out of his head and not tell me that it was mine, even if it was. Which is all bullshit. They wouldn't do that.
You know, there's a lot of survivor guilt, you know. He was my partner. I was charged with saving his life, and I didn't do it. So those are the kinds of things that you look back later and you say, you know, your whole life is, you live your life now wondering what if, you know, what if.
I saw the bullet round come out, and it was ball ammo, and I was shooting jacketed rounds, copper jacketed rounds. So I knew it wasn't mine. And Rocky was shooting I think he had a 38 special, which had ball rounds in it. So I come away with it with all kinds of feelings. I'm happy that I'm alive. I'm pleased that I performed the way I should. Willis told me, he said, I looked where I expected you to be, and you were there. Tactically, he expected his partner to be in X spot, and I was in X spot. It's tactics that you practice all the time. I was right where I was supposed to be. And his affirmation of that is what really made me feel good. You know, okay, I think so much of Willis that if I was in the wrong place or did the wrong thing, I would be devastated. But I wasn't. So I was mad because this idiot played this card that made me do that, made me do what I did. I'm elated that I won the Medal of Valor. I'd give it back in a heartbeat to have Mike back.
I don't trust too many people anymore. I watch my back. I pay attention to my surroundings. I don't know. I have a tendency now to dislike people when I meet them and learn to like them later on.
We'd like now to ask the widows of our slain officers, Shirley Pierce Coyle and Sheila Lane, along with the City Council and Foundation President Karen Dalton, to unveil the final salute.
Andrew Harvey, on the 2nd of December, was just paroled. It's a sign of the times. It's the government, and mostly in this state. And, that's why Piper's out there screaming about these. I mean, people voting these things in are out of their mind.
We need to pull our head out of the sand and start realizing what we're doing to our communities and to our officers who give their life like Officer Boyer did today.
I never dreamed it would be me, my name for all eternity. Recorded here at this hallowed place, alas, my name, no more my face. In the line of duty, I hear them say, my family now the price will pay. My folded flag, stained with their tears, we only had those 2 short years. The badge no longer on my chest, I sleep now in eternal rest. My sword I pass to those behind, and pray they keep this thought in mind. I never dreamed it would be me, and with heavy heart and bended knee, I ask for all here from the past, dear God, let my name be the last.
Mike Willis and I made a pact the night of the shooting that if anybody ever asked us about Mike Lane, we would tell them everything we could, because we want to keep his memory alive and positive. And so that's one of the reasons I don't mind doing this at all, because you're keeping that memory alive. That's why Willis and I are so close. We have walked the path.
Knocking on heaven's door. I'm knocking on heaven's door. I'm knocking on heaven's door. And Mama, take this badge off of me. Can't use it anymore. It's getting dark, too dark to see.
Getting to the bottom of a story or myth can be an adventure in itself. If you have a mystery you would like to solve, I suggest you find out for yourself. Discover the information you're looking for at your local library today.